Welcome back to Worthy Woman with Aston Simmons. I have such an incredible guest, and I am super excited for this conversation. All of the mums will want to be listening to this conversation. That's all I'm going to say. It's all about getting us organized, and we need that. We've got so much on our plate. So I am really excited to speak to this beautiful woman, beautiful Carmen Strong. She is a professional organizer. She's an interior stylist, and she helps busy, time-poor working mamas just like me and you reduce that overwhelm by helping us to get organized in our homes, but in our lives as well, because we all know they're connected. They're not separate from us. As women, it's all connected. So she brings the calm to the chaos, and she helps them put in long-term systems and that give them back their time, which I absolutely love. I am an organizer. I love organization. So I am really excited for this conversation, and I know that I'm going to get a lot from it too. And I'll be taking notes because I'm really, really passionate about structures and organization as well. So before we dive in, we're going to be talking a lot about motherhood, the mental load of motherhood, how to manage it all. So many strategies. You're going to get a lot of value from this episode. But before we dive in deep, I just want to hand it back over to Carmen just to introduce a bit of who she is outside of all that incredible work she does, because she's also a mama as well. So thank you so much for being here, Carmen.
Thank you. What an introduction. Appreciate you. And I'm so excited to be here and share some of my information and some of the stuff that works for me with all of you. A little bit about me. I am a mum. I have two beautiful children, Layla, who is 7, and Louis, who is 4. So one in primary school and one in preschool. I'm a wife. I've got many businesses, and I would say I'm multi-passionate, I suppose, is the best way that I can explain a little bit more about who I am. I really, really, really enjoy finding as much time as possible to spend with friends and family and not getting caught up in all of the stuff that we have to do, that we as mums tend to take on our shoulders first, rather than delegating it and pushing it out to other people. So I'm really passionate about getting as much out of life as possible and squeezing, I suppose, the lemon out of the juice, the juice out of the lemon, as you could say. So
Yes.
That's what I really love doing. I've kind of got like a passion to try and find as much time possible in my life to be able to do all the things that I want to be doing for myself and with my husband and with my kids and friends and family. So that's a little bit about me and what I do and what I stand for.
I absolutely love that. And you can feel your passion in everything you do. And I love that you're a mum and you are multi passionate, because I think that's true of all human beings, but we kind of put ourselves in boxes. And especially if we're mums, we kind of think that we can't, there's that whole, I'm a mum, so I can't do this thing. And I get it. Like, I've been there too, but you realize you can. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. Like, you eventually have to get to that place. So I'm so inspired by women like you who are doing that, not just with one business, but with multiple. It's incredible. So really celebrating you. Let's start with talking about the mental load of motherhood, because really, I think that's where it all starts. And I know for a lot of the women that I work with, it can just feel so overwhelming. It can feel, I hear from women a lot, like, I have no time for myself. And I know, like, that prioritizing yourself really is important. If you can't prioritize yourself, you can't meet your own needs, you cannot meet the needs of your children, your family, your business, and all of those things. I had to learn that the hard way. I think most women do. So I'd love to hear a bit about your journey and your experience with this, because I do think collectively the mother load is massive, but I do think a lot of it, like you said, we put on our own shoulders, and we have to learn to take it off, to delegate, to delete, to organize, so that it's not all on our shoulders.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're really good at trying to take it on our shoulders and do it all. It's just sometimes the way that we're programmed, or the way that we've been raised, or generational cycles. And it's just sometimes gets to a point where you go, enough's enough, I can't do this anymore. It leads to burnout, it leads to exhaustion, it leads to unhappy relationships, it leads to being an unhappy mum. Like, all of the things tend to pile up, and that's okay. We've all been there at some point in time, and all probably felt just exhausted, probably just purely through motherhood in general. And that's just, let alone adding on all of those additional tasks that the house puts on our shoulders. So, you know, I can definitely resonate and relate. And this is exactly why I talk about it and why I do what I do, because some of the strategies and some of the systems and solutions that I've put in place have really helped to allow to take off the pressure and to take off the workload. And whilst it's not going away, unfortunately, we can't just get rid of it, wipe it clean and go, you know what, it doesn't exist, because it absolutely does. It's just about how we can manage it and push through and work through it and be our best versions of ourselves and our happiest versions. And really, you know, when you can do cleaning and you can, you know, do the laundry with a smile on your face and say, I get to do this, I suppose it makes it a little bit easier. And you really only get to that point when you actually, you know, ask for help and you delegate and you start putting in the systems. And I think really some of the biggest game-changing ones for me were really learning and understanding that when you actually put a system in place, if you try it once and it doesn't work, not to give up. And, you know, we try and do these things like meal planning to make our lives easier. And then we realize after we've done it once or twice, oh shit, that didn't work. Or, you know, that didn't work for us. And we just throw it out the window and we forget about it and we go back to our old ways. And something that I really learned early on is about creating habits and how long they take to be able to become subconscious so that they become really easy and you don't have to actually think about them. And it really does take at least, for very basic minimal habits, a minimum of 21 days of doing the same thing every single day, monotonously, as bad as it can be having to do the same task all the time, in order for some things to become really easy and subconscious and you don't have to think about them. And one of the biggest things that comes from motherhood is actually just making decisions. We have decision fatigue. What do you want for dinner? How do you want your, you know, your toast cooked? Like, how annoying is it to actually have to ask all these questions and to be the one that makes the decisions instead of someone just coming to you and saying, this is what you're having for dinner. It's so much easier for us, or this is what you need to do today, or this is how we're going to do that. So there's so much that comes into it, but putting those strategies in, and the biggest one that changed for me was actually what I do every single morning and every single evening. And I call them non-negotiables. And the non-negotiables are the bare minimum things that we or I have to do around the home in order to get through day-to-day life. And a lot of them really resonate around housework, which is unfortunate. But for me, I get really overwhelmed when the laundry's out of control.
And me too. I'm so glad you said that. That is the one area that I cannot let get out of control. I lived in a tiny house for 18 months, like an off-grid tiny house. I'm telling you, there is nothing that gives you more overwhelm. I was a new mum as well. So babies, so much dirty clothes, so much washing. Babies come with washing, is true. Absolutely. And it was just so overwhelming because we were off-grid. It was solar. You know, I couldn't wash every day. I was like pulling my hair out. So I totally feel you. And I agree. My number one hack is wash every day.
Totally agree. I've got this saying that I always live by, and it's a load of washing a day keeps the chaos away. And gosh, 100%. I stand by it every single day. And the other thing that really ticks me off and really pushes me over the edge is the washing in the sink. If I've got a full sink of dishes, I'm like, I can't cook without cleaning that. I can't prepare a meal without cleaning that. I can't pack lunches without cleaning that. Like, it really causes this overwhelm. And those two things for me are a part of my non-negotiables. I've got 5 steps in the morning, 5 steps in the evening. Both of them are to do with mainly those tasks. The other ones are just wiping down the benches and clearing the space. Yeah. And vacuuming the floors as well, because I also hate crumbs under my feet when I'm walking around on our floorboards. So yes. You know, I've got these set specific tasks that are really strategic and specific to me and my needs and my size family. They're not going to work for everybody, but you know, those main things, doing them morning and doing them evening, are what have changed the game for me. And now, at first I used to have a checklist and I used to tick them off every single day. Now they're so ingrained in what I do that I do not go to bed without doing them. And the best part about it is when I wake up in the morning and I come down those stairs, I can just sigh a sigh of relief knowing that my house is in control and I'm starting the day right, on the right foot. I'm not starting the day with a full sink of dishes. I'm not starting the day off going, oh my gosh, we've got no clean clothes for the kids to wear to school. Like, I'm well equipped with and well managed in this cycle of knowing that this stuff's going to be done. Yes, of course, I'm absolutely wearing that on my shoulders, but they are absolutely triggers for me from like an overwhelm perspective, not for my husband. He's got one
Yes.
that are his, and we
Yeah.
manage that workload around what works for him, what works for me, and that we both feel supported in what we do. So another big part of that is, you know, you don't have to do it alone. You can absolutely
Yeah.
pass some of those tasks over to somebody else in the house, and you can absolutely ask for help. I also outsource a cleaner, which to some might be a luxury, but to me, I would much prefer going without a coffee every single day, in order to be able to afford a cleaner a fortnight or a month or whatever that might be. So I definitely outsource a cleaner, and that is something that I have stood by for a really long time. Just being a busy mum, running multiple businesses, yeah, I've definitely outsourced a cleaner. That's the first thing I outsourced. And eventually one day, maybe I'll outsource somebody to cook me some meals as well. But for the moment, it's all down to meal planning, online shopping, which saves a lot of time, and managing that with my husband and getting a bit of, he cooks some nights and I cook other nights too. So
Yeah.
yeah, bit of support there.
Yeah. Amazing. And honestly, throughout that, I was like, yes, 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 yes. So much of that I could relate to. And I think all women can relate to. And um, I just loved how, like you said, we do put it on ourselves and we don't, I think learning how to ask for help, like, you know, I've had to have these conversations with my husband several times because I think part of it, what comes into play when it comes to the house is traditionally it was on the woman's shoulders, but that worked because women weren't working. But now women are working. So there is some dynamic changes, and we see it a lot in couples that we work with. A lot of couples fight over the cleaning.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that they fight over a lot. And it's really interesting because we have different beliefs about it. It's not even just like who's doing what. It's like this ingrained belief. Well, my mum always did the cooking. My mum always looked after the home. But did your mum always work? You know, there's because the dynamics have changed. And our generation is really adjusting to these changes in gender roles and how we show up and what that means in the home. And, you know, dads are wanting to be more involved with the kids now than they ever were. So, and this is all great, but it is all navigating new ways of showing up in the home. And like you said, you've got to have these conversations and work out, well, what is a need for you? Like, I know for my husband, the like vacuuming regularly is a need, not necessarily the whole house, but certain rooms the kids are in. He like you literally see him becoming really overwhelmed and stressed. That doesn't really trigger me. Whereas I need to be, like I said, I have to wash every single day. It doesn't matter if it's raining, and I do a small load every day. That helps me feel calm and in control of, you know, that because I know it's going to build up. Another thing for me is with meals as well, I plan ahead. I normally do a meal that does 2 nights, or at least the night before I've got it out. And that just keeps me calm knowing that everyone has clothes and everybody's fed, you know, and if those things are done, then I'm off to the right start. Like, I love how you said that. And it's hilarious that it's those basic things, but this is part of life. And I really loved how you said that you can then get to that place of, I get to do this, because I have adopted the same approach. Like, motherhood can be very monotonous and really draining and tiring and exhausting. And there's no denying that. But I know for me, reminding myself that I get to do it, like it's an honor, it's a privilege. They're only going to be this size for this, you know, a little time, really. It feels like forever some days, but it is only for a little time. And that, you know, it's for them to need me is a beautiful thing as well. And that will run out eventually. So trying to find the magic in the mess, I like to call it, or the magic in the mayhem. And I'm definitely calmer like you when I have some of that basic structure. And I'm really lucky in that my husband feels the same. And it sounds like your husband appreciates some of that structure as well. I know for some women that I work with, some of their partners will just say, well, don't do anything then. You know, don't do the things, don't, you know, but they do pile up. So another alternative is, like you said, we'll outsource it because, and people think it's more expensive than it is. Like you said, it's like, just don't buy a coffee or don't buy lunch at work every day. And there's your cleaner or there's your meals. It's done, you know,
I
it's,
often think of that same thing. A lot of people are like, oh, how do you afford that cleaner? And I actually, you know, prioritize that as, oh, I value that really highly in my world as a priority of something that is going to help me long term, get back time, you know, get back money in my business because I'm
yeah,
not cleaning the house, all those sorts of things. Or I could potentially go to work for that extra couple of hours every few weeks or every week or whatever that might be. But really, when you actually think about it, it's the same concept as potentially exercising. You pay a PT to help you exercise and, work out for your health, which is fantastic. Or you might pay for a gym membership, or you may pay for, your lashes to get done because you prioritize that in your life. And it really does come down to, if it means enough to you, you will find the money somehow. If it means enough to you, you may find yourself budgeting meals a little bit tighter in order to be able to afford a cleaner, or you may go without getting your nails done, or you may go stretch your hair out that little bit longer to be able to justify it and afford it, essentially. So it really comes down to those things as to whether it's really that important to you. You will actually find a way to do it. It's the same as exercising. You'll find time in your world if it's really, really important for you. I find time to clean my house. I find time to organize it, because the return on investment for me later on pays dividends, because I know that it reduces calm. It, allows me more time with my friends and my family. It allows me more time to do things that I love. It allows me more time to fill up my cup and have a longer bath, or whatever that might actually be. But I think it's really important. If it really means enough to you, you would find a way, even if it means working an extra hour to pay for it. It might be that you work a few extra hours that week, or take, some additional jobs or whatever. But yeah, I definitely think some of these things become a priority for some, and other people do look at it as a luxury, because they don't just see it as a high value or a high priority for them. And that's okay, because they prioritize something else in their world that is more important right now, which might be exercise, or whatever it is in their life.
Definitely. But you're so right. You don't get what you want, you get what you prioritize. And we all have different priorities, and that's okay. But we do need to be real with ourselves. And especially if you're in a relationship, we recommend sitting down as a family and everybody sharing, what are your priorities, or what are your values? And then what are our joint values or our joint priorities as a family? And I know for us, having a calm, kind of happy, healthy home environment is really a high priority. And so that means reducing the stress. So we're always like, okay, how can we support each other to reduce that stress? And, like you've been sharing, it could be outsourcing things, or it could be just doing things a bit differently than you're currently doing them. I love what are the 2 to 3 or 5 things you could do in the morning or at night that will like allow you to go to sleep and feel proud and know you've done enough, and get up feeling like that relief of, okay, I'm ready to start the day. I really love that. I feel like we've given so many strategies already, which is incredible. How do you manage it all? Because it is a lot. Like, you have multiple businesses. You're a coach, like you have children. How do you find you manage it all? Is there mindset hacks? Is there beliefs that you've adopted? What do you think are the biggest things that have really helped you to manage it all? Because I know it's different for everybody. And I know there's different things I've had to adopt to be able to manage it all. But I'm always open to learning more.
Yeah, totally. I think I've got really strong boundaries. I know when to turn them on, like when to turn it on and when to turn it off. I know when to work and when not to work. I can really sense the environment that I'm in. If the family's feeling a little bit chaotic and tensions around, I know to sort of switch off the work and surrender a little bit, I suppose. Or if
I was really hoping you were going to say that word, because that is one of the biggest things I've had to learn. And I just want to add that it's not easy.
Gosh,
so
no.
the word sounds so beautiful and peaceful, and like you're just slipping into surrender. And I'm just letting all the strong women out there know that it's not peaceful. So if you're finding it hard, it's meant to feel hard. It's excruciatingly uncomfortable.
It's easier though.
It is so much easier. You're so right. It was a really hard lesson. I think the hardest lesson I learned in motherhood is surrender. And exactly what you said, surrendering to the energy. Okay, the energy shifted. This is not working. And you can try and push against the grain, and then eventually it just backfires and explodes. And then you're back at square one. So I'm really glad.
Push for almost sometimes too long.
Yes.
And that's when relationships tend to break down, or, you tend to have tension, or you tend to just ignore each other because it's sometimes easier. And
yeah.
It's a solution. And I found surrendering very, very difficult. I didn't listen a lot of the time because I was just busy doing. I was not productive. I was busy, keeping myself busy, forever doing something, whether that be organizing or cleaning, and just busy. just because there's
Yeah.
always shit to do in the house. There's always something to do. And something that I learned, and I read it somewhere and I was like, oh my God, that is so, so simple, was you're always going to have a to-do list. So stop trying to tick the to-do list off, because the to-do list is never going away.
Amen.
And
For all the
I was
mothers
like,
out there, don't
oh,
try to finish it. Just know that it's like, I know I had a friend who was a nurse, and she said, like, she would always say hospitals are 24-hour care. And I'm like, that's a bit like motherhood. You know, like that's a bit like the to-do list, 24-hour care. So this list has got to, you know, it's constantly going to keep revolving. So I love that. Don't even try to finish it. Like, just do what you can, and that is enough. Be okay with it. Like, it's going to be there again tomorrow.
Yeah. And so it's this backing, like back to the surrender. It's when you need to surrender and put your hands up and ask for more help, you absolutely can. It's, you know, living through that chaos for a period of time until you find that, yes, the chaos is leaving and it's going, and you're listening to the energetics, and you're listening to what's happening and what people are saying and what your children are yearning for or needing more of. And sometimes it's just being present. Sometimes it's just living in the moment and being mum and playing the games and getting on the ground and doing the things that we probably don't want to do because we're seeing the dishes pile up or we're seeing the laundry. And, you know, yes, I swear by those daily non-negotiables, but there are absolutely days and times where I look at that pile of laundry and I go, you know what, today's not the day. My kids need me more, or my husband needs me more, or, you know, sometimes I also go, my house needs me more as well. So I just think it's really listening to what's going on around you. And and I found that very, very difficult. I'm finally coming into that a little bit more naturally now. And that's just come down to the fact that you can't do it all. And I know it seems like I might have it all together, or that I manage it all, but I absolutely don't. It does come down to boundaries, priorities, asking for help, outsourcing, organizing, and planning. I really spend a lot of time planning. I spend a lot of time scheduling in, and I really start scheduling from, I always start scheduling from myself as a priority, number one, and then I do my children and my husband, and then I do my work around that. So if I've got my calendar filled with all of my things that I need, and then my children and my husband's things that they need, and then the work, I really can't let my main values and my main priorities down in that, because I know my cup's going to be full, and then I can pour from the overflow to them. And then they, once they're happy, you know, everything else is just in abundance, and I'm allowing myself the space to be able to go and do the work that I need to do, and have the jobs and the companies that I have.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I fully agree. And I can see how when you start with you, because I love to schedule in as well, but when you take the scheduling to that next level, like start with you, schedule for you, schedule in the time to connect, schedule in, you know, whether it's time in the morning or time in the evening, then schedule in time with your partner, then schedule in time for the kids, then, you know, then the business, and then anything else. Because the thing is, like I always say to women, everything comes through you. So if that's not solid, and if you're in a family and if your relationship's not solid, then that trickles through. Whatever energy is coming through you guys goes through to everything. So don't try and fix everything. Everyone does the opposite, like do it all that way. No, start here and with you, and then go out. And I love how you just said, then you know that you're meeting your values, and that's the fastest way to feel happy in your life and to have it all in terms of what having it all means to you. And I think that's what we always need to come back to. Like, you know, I know people do this all the time. Well, she appears to have it all together or whatever. And I love how you said that it's still, you're still in the human experience. I know, and it's the same for me. I'm still having a human experience. There's still days that don't go to plan. I still have to have surrender and throw my hands up sometimes. And I sometimes have to come back to, okay, well, what does having it all mean to me? And that's where you go back to the values and your family's priorities, and okay, well, what is actually important to me? And have I taken on some things that actually don't match those values? And then do I need to clean up my energy there so that's not happening, or put in boundaries so that's not happening? And we all have control over that. And I think we forget that sometimes. And I think mums, like you said in the beginning, are kind of the worst at that, because we want to please and we want to kind of prove that we can do it all and be it all and all those things. And we end up actually just hurting ourselves in that process. So I know that's been a big lesson for me as well. Yeah, I absolutely love that. Now, the last question I really wanted to ask is, do you have any specific, I love watching your organization hacks. Oh my God. If you have, like, seriously, if you don't know Carmen Strong, go and find her on Instagram. Everything's going to be in the show notes. Like, get so excited watching your makeovers and your like befores and afters and everything. They're so beautiful and they're just so transformative. And like just from the images, I can feel the relief that that woman or that family must feel. And that must be so rewarding. Like those, I just can't imagine how rewarding that must feel. I'm only seeing a snippet of some of the homes you go into and the work you've done. So I'd love to hear just a little bit more about that specifically. And if you can share any specific hacks on, I mean, I've got a lot better at organization because of you, I think. And my husband now doesn't resist me buying more storage things. He was always like, why are we buying more storage things? Let's just get rid of stuff. And I'm like, no, we can do that, but we also need storage things because everything needs a home. And he's adopted it now. He's finally there, but it's taken some time.
Totally. I love that. The transformations are what make me just love doing what I do every single day. And my mission statement for all of my company, like all of my brands in my company, are to make a positive difference in people's lives. And it's just something that it's actually my life motto. It's who I am. I started, way back when in retail, and whether that just be helping somebody in a change room make a positive difference. And this is why I'm multi-passionate, because I'll never just have one company that does one thing. I like to have multiple that can change people's lives in so many different ways. And I've got the label company that allows me to make sure that, people have their storage solutions organized, and that, I'm transforming their lives and making a positive difference because they're no longer frustrated at their husbands and their kids, because the kids are actually putting things back where they belong.
Yes.
I've got the cleaning company. It's making a positive difference in people's lives because they've got the ability to get back more time to do the things that they love, and they've got somebody cleaning their home for them while they do other things. And then I've got the organizing stuff. So again, making a positive difference. So really, all of my stuff that I do is honed around that one statement and that one thing that just brings me so much joy. And it's just not only the transformation aesthetically and visually that you see, but the transformation that they feel and the calm that they get in their world. And it really is as easy as just purchasing some containers that fit your space, that work really well, breaking down your items into categories and labeling it. Like really, if I could say it as simply as that, I know there's a lot more that goes into it, but rip everything out of that one space or that one drawer, put some containers in it that fit, and label it and put them back in categories. And you'll just feel such a sense of relief doing that. And my advice for anybody out there that does want to start, that may not have start with a drawer.
Yes.
Start with a high use drawer that, you're often working with or using, then move on to, another area and then another area. But always always try and start with something that you're going to use and see often. There's no point going into, a space that you're not going to see often and you're not going to use often, and organizing that first, because it's not a high foot traffic area. It's not a high priority. And also, once you see the value in doing and putting in the input to get the output, you'll do it more often. You get like this organizing bug. It's a bit like the travel bug that people say. You get the organizing bug where you want to keep going. And that really just comes down to the feeling that you get after the fact of putting in the energy to make it happen, make the transformation happen, and how good it makes you feel afterwards, not just the aesthetically pleasing side of it and the fact that you've probably decluttered and got to donate a box. Like there's so many feel good moments when you organize. You get to donate, you get to re-gift or gift something, or you get to give hand-me-downs that you've got beautiful memories of your children's clothes go to somebody else that's going to cherish and love them. You get to, do all of these things. There's so many moments, that wow moment at the end, and then the calm after the fact. So I can't explain how great it
I'm so glad I asked you this, because I can feel it when in the things you share, like in the videos. I love seeing the aesthetics, like you said, but I would also love to see the woman's face, because I can imagine her face, like, and maybe a bit stressed and overwhelmed as it's happening, because some of them, like, there's a lot that I've seen. But then by the end, I just imagine this peace and this calm coming over this woman, and just feeling like she's got this. I mean, it's the same life and it's the same home, but you've like really culled down the energy, and all that stuff has energy.
Yeah. It's
You know,
noise.
so we think it's just stuff, but it's not. It has energy, it's noise. It's not like just around you. It's also, as a woman, it's adding to that mental load of like every time you go into that cupboard, it's a nightmare getting whatever you need to get out of it, you know, and it's like you do it once, but it pays for you every day. Does you know, it's like once you build a habit, it's once it's sorted, it does change how you feel about your home, about your life for the rest of the day, for the rest of the month, for the rest of the year, you know, and then you do stay on top of it and it feels good. And I've had some experience with this when we moved into that tiny house because my husband, I had a massive wardrobe and he basically said, you're going to end up with like this tiny house was tiny, 7.2 meters by
Yeah.
2.2 meters, a
Crazy.
tiny house, like a caravan. And I really did have to cull. And I felt what you were talking about, like donating clothes. It felt so good. Gifting them to friends. It felt so good. And actually realizing that I only wore a small portion of my wardrobe anyway. And even with like cutlery and like all the cooking utensils, I was only using a small portion of them.
Yeah.
And even though we're not in a tiny house anymore, we actually continued that habit. So we don't buy all this extra stuff. And if we find the energy is changing in the house, we do exactly what you recommend. We go through it and we start with that area that's becoming stressful. And it's like, what do we need to get rid of? Who can we gift it to? And we've actually included our kids in it. Our kids will now say, oh, Mom, I actually don't play with this anymore. Can I gift this to somebody? And then they know that they can put something else on their birthday list because we've got rid of something so we can, you know, add something that they might like. And I think it's really good to teach our kids that as well. I know you feel the same. Just, you know, in
Yeah.
the world that we live in, we're just consuming so much stuff. It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's a positive to give back and to realize that, you know, it's good to declutter and that we can help somebody else and we can also help the earth, you know, hold less of our stuff. So yeah, I love that. And I just wanted to make sure I shared that because I love watching these videos and everybody listening, I just know is going to go watch those videos now. I think they're my favorite. But I absolutely love the work that you do. I'm so inspired by it and I love your mission. Absolutely love it. You are definitely making a positive difference in so many women's lives and families because it has a ripple effect. This is it.
Yeah.
Like everything touches everything. So it's, you know, it's never just one person. And yeah, I think your work is incredible. And if you want to know more about Carmen, please head to the show notes. All of her links will be there and you are going to thank me. You're definitely going to thank me. You're going to feel so much happier in your home when you go check out Carmen. So thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge, your beautiful heart and your passion with us. I really appreciate it, Carmen.
Thank you so much for having me.